What's up, everybody? This is Hayden Fortini back for poker tips. This will be poker tip number 9 for you guys, and this one is regarding ICM. I think a lot of people don't really they hear this term thrown around, but don't really conceptualize what it means. Essentially what it means is, say for example you're at a final table and there's 4 people left, and let's say you have 10 big blinds and you double your stack up to 20 big blinds. Well, when you had 10 big blinds, let's say your ICM number, if you stopped right there and they ran the ICM numbers and paid everyone out based on ICM and their chip stack, let's just say you would get $5,000 was your ICM number. So if you double up your stack from 10 big blinds to 20 big blinds, your ICM number would not double. It would not go up to 10,000. It would probably go up to something like 6,500 or 7,000, maybe even less, depending on the other stacks. So because of that, you have to be a lot more careful about taking risk. This is called your risk premium. And essentially what that means is that if you are going to shove or go all in or call in all in, you have to have a much tighter range than you typically would need in this situation, especially when you're calling off for your stack, because when you're shoving, you have the chance of getting them to fold, but when you're calling, you're gonna have to win a showdown. So your hand is gonna have to be even stronger than usual. And with the other stacks, let's say there's a stack with 3 big blinds, a lot of times it makes sense to wait the stack out and get that pay jump, because if you were to double, a lot of times your ICM value would go up to maybe where that next pay jump was. Now, there is something called future game consideration, right? And this is the way that I look at this. So let's say in that scenario, we double up from 10 big blinds to 20 big blinds, right? But with 20 big blinds, we're still in the middle of the pack. Let's say there's a chip leader with 50 big blinds. He's putting a lot of pressure on people. There's some shorter stacks. So we're still going to have to play very tight, probably even tighter than we were at 10 big blinds. We're gonna have a tough time accumulating chips. So I don't even think there's any extra value there in doubling up added on to our ICM number, unless the value is essentially we can last longer because we just have more chips. That's really the only value in doubling. It doesn't really allow us to apply more pressure, put more pressure on our opponents if there's a big stack in a lot of pots that we don't want to get tangled up with. Now, an example of where you might take a little more risk than ICM suggests is if this double up puts you in the chip lead. So let's say you had 25 or 30 big blinds and you're doubling up here, and now you become the chip leader. And now you're in a position 4 or 5-handed where you can apply a lot of pressure and you can put yourself in a position to win the tournament. In my opinion, it would be worth taking a little bit more risk in this situation, because now you can play much differently if you get that big stack and you can accumulate chips much more easily. Hope this made sense for you guys. Drop any questions below if you do. I'm going to be coming back with more poker tips for you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day.